Armin lived a quiet life in a small town surrounded by forests. He liked simple things, building gadgets, reading about space, and watching the stars at night. One evening, as he walked home from his workshop, he noticed something unusual. The sky above the forest glowed with colors he had never seen before. Blue, green, and violet lights danced together, as if painting the night. His curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to investigate. He carefully walked into the forest, guided by the soft glow. The further he went, the brighter the lights became. Then suddenly he saw her. She was standing in a small clearing, bathed in shimmering light. At first he thought she might be a trick of the eyes, but as he approached, he realized she was real. She looked human in shape, but was different. Her skin reflected soft colors like a pearl that caught every hue of the rainbow. Her eyes were large and glowing faintly, filled with confusion and worry. Armin froze for a moment. He had never seen anything like her. He wanted to run and call someone, but something about her presence made him stay. She looked scared but gentle. Slowly, he took a step forward and spoke softly. "Hello, I'm Armin. Are you okay?" The alien woman turned her head toward him and made a sound. It was not words, but a soft melody. Armin frowned. He didn't understand her language, but he could feel her emotions. She was frightened and lonely. He held out his hand slowly. I can help you. Don't worry." For a moment, she hesitated, then took a small step closer. Her eyes studied him carefully, as if deciding whether he was trustworthy. Armin smiled gently. "My home is not far. You can rest there." She tilted her head and then, without saying a word, followed him. Armin led her through the trees and back to his small house. He had never imagined bringing someone like this home, but he knew she needed help. Inside, he offered her a seat and some water. She drank slowly, her movements delicate and careful. Armin watched her and wondered where she had come from.
"Can you tell me your name?" he asked.
She made another melodic sound and pointed to herself. "Lyra," he guessed from the rhythm of her tone. Lyra nodded slightly as if approving the name. Armin realized that communication would be difficult. She didn't speak his language and he didn't know hers. But he didn't let that discourage him. He decided to help her feel safe first. He gave her some clean clothes and a warm blanket. Lyra seemed to relax a little, her eyes losing some of the fear they held. They spent the evening in silence. Armin prepared a small meal and offered it to her. She looked at the food curiously, then slowly tasted it. A soft sound escaped her lips, something that sounded like happiness. Armin smiled. He didn't need words to understand that she was grateful. As the night grew darker, Armin felt a connection forming between them. There was trust now, small but real. He could see that Lyra was not dangerous. She was just lost, away from her home and family. He knew he had to do everything he could to help her. Before going to sleep, Armin placed a small lantern near her side of the room, casting a gentle glow. Lyra watched him carefully, then leaned slightly forward, as if saying thank you without words. Armin felt a warm feeling in his chest. He had helped many people before, but this was different. This was someone truly extraordinary, and she had trusted him completely in just a few hours. Armin lay down, thinking about the future. He didn't know where Lyra had come from or how to get her home, but he promised himself that he would find a way. He was determined to help her no matter what it took. Outside, the stars shone brightly as if cheering him on, and somewhere deep in the forest, the soft glow of colors continued to dance, reflecting the start of something new, something magical. By the time Armin drifted off to sleep, Lyra was sitting quietly, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She didn't fully understand this strange human yet, but she felt safe, and for the first time since arriving on Earth, she believed that she might not be alone anymore. The next morning, Armin woke early, excited and nervous. He wanted to make Lyra feel comfortable and start understanding her better. When he entered the room, she was sitting quietly, her glowing eyes focused on the rising sun through the window. She turned toward him and gave a small nod, which he took as a greeting. Armin prepared a simple breakfast of bread, fruit, and juice. He offered it to her, and she took it carefully, examining each item with curiosity. When she tasted the fruit, her eyes lit up and a soft, musical sound escaped her lips. Armin laughed quietly, feeling happy that she was enjoying something so simple. After breakfast, he wanted to try communicating with her more clearly. He grabbed a notebook and a pen. "Maybe we can draw things and understand each other," he said, smiling. Lyra tilted her head and then slowly, She imitated his gestures, taking the pen in her hand. She drew small, elegant shapes that glowed faintly, almost like tiny stars. Armin looked at them closely. They were beautiful but mysterious. He began drawing simple shapes and symbols too. A sun, a tree, a house. Each time he drew something, Lyra repeated the shape with a small glow from her fingers, like she was trying to copy the meaning. Armin realized that this could be their way of talking until they found a better method. He felt excited. Even though their languages were different, they could still connect through creativity. Armin also tried using his small gadgets to help. He had a portable device that could record and analyze sounds. When Lyra made her melodic sounds, he recorded them and played them back. Slowly, patterns started to appear. Certain tones seemed to express happiness, sadness, or curiosity. Armin's heart raced. If he could understand her sounds, they might soon be able to talk properly. Lyra watched him with interest, fascinated by the small, glowing machine and the way he worked. Armin noticed her curiosity and decided to show her some of Earth's simple technology. He turned on a small projector and displayed pictures of the forest, the town, and even his little workshop. Lyra's eyes widened, reflecting the images as if she were seeing them for the first time. A soft sound, almost like laughter, came from her, and Armin smiled. During the afternoon, they went outside. The forest was calm, and the sunlight fell through the trees in golden beams. Armin pointed to the flowers, the birds, and the flowing river nearby. Lyra looked at everything with wonder. She tried to mimic some sounds, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, and Armin encouraged her with gentle smiles and nods. He realized that even without words, moments like these built trust and friendship. Armin also learned more about Lyra. She could communicate small ideas using gestures and glowing patterns on her skin. Sometimes she would touch her chest and point toward him, meaning trust or thanks. Sometimes she traced lines in the air, describing shapes or feelings. Armin tried to follow her movements, learning slowly but surely. Each small understanding made their bond stronger. By evening, Armin noticed that Lyra seemed more relaxed than the day before. She explored the room, touching objects, examining the books, and watching his tools with fascination. Armin explained in gestures and simple words what each tool was for. She listened carefully, occasionally tilting her head in thought as if storing all the new knowledge. When night came, they sat outside under the stars. Armin pointed at the constellations, telling her stories of Earth's sky and legends. Lyra responded with glowing patterns and soft melodic sounds. It was not perfect communication, but it was enough to share feelings and ideas. Armin realized that sometimes understanding didn't need words. It needed patience, respect, and care. Before sleeping, Armin placed a soft blanket on the small couch where Lyra preferred to rest. She looked at him and made a gentle melodic sound. Armin smiled and nodded. "Good night, Lyra," he said quietly. She leaned slightly forward and touched his hand softly. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything: trust, gratitude, and the beginning of a strong friendship. Armin lay in bed that night thinking about the day. He had helped someone truly extraordinary and learned that communication could happen in many ways, even between two very different worlds. He felt proud and excited, knowing that tomorrow would bring new discoveries. Outside, the forest was calm, the stars twinkling above, and somewhere in the quiet, Lyra rested peacefully, knowing that she was not alone anymore. The next morning, Armin woke to find Lyra already awake, sitting by the window and watching the forest. Her glowing eyes reflected the sunlight, and she made small melodic sounds as if greeting the new day. Armin smiled and brought her a glass of water and some fresh fruit. She accepted them carefully, her hands delicate and graceful, and gave him a soft, musical sound that made him laugh quietly. After breakfast, Armin decided it was time to learn more about where Lyra had come from. He wanted to help her return home, but he didn't know how. "Lyra," he said slowly, using simple words. "Your home, family, I help?" She tilted her head, then touched her chest and pointed to the sky. Armin guessed that she was trying to show him her family far away. He spent the morning trying to understand her gestures and glowing patterns. Lyra demonstrated by drawing small shapes in the air with her fingers, and Armin did his best to follow. Slowly, a story began to form. She had come to Earth accidentally, separated from her family during a journey. Armin listened carefully, amazed at the beauty of her world. He imagined cities floating above clouds, glowing forests, and creatures that shimmered in sunlight. As they worked, a strange hum filled the air. Armin looked up and Lyra's eyes widened. The hum grew louder, rhythmic, and almost musical. A glowing light appeared at the edge of the forest. Armin felt a mix of surprise and excitement. "Lyra, your family?" he asked. She nodded, her glow intensifying, and ran a small distance toward the light. From the forest emerged figures taller than Armin had ever seen. Their forms were elegant and bright like Lyra, but more commanding. They moved with grace and their eyes reflected wisdom and kindness. Armin realized these must be her family. He stepped forward carefully, trying to appear friendly and trustworthy. Lyra ran to them and they embraced her in a gentle, glowing display of affection. The light from their forms shifted with emotion, soft and beautiful. Armin watched silently, amazed by the display of family love. After a few moments, Lyra turned to him and gestured for him to come closer. With a nervous but confident step, he approached the group. The tallest figure, whom Armin guessed was the head of the family, extended a hand toward him. Armin hesitated, then shook it. A wave of warmth and calm seemed to pass through him. The figure tilted its head slightly, examining him carefully. Armin felt as if the family was judging him, not in anger but in search of trustworthiness. Lyra's family began to communicate with her through melodic sounds and glowing gestures. Armin watched closely, trying to understand. He noticed that certain gestures and patterns seemed to show approval or curiosity. Slowly, one of them turned to him and made a soft, rhythmic sound. Armin repeated it as best as he could, and the family responded with a series of approving tones. It was not words, but it worked. They were acknowledging him. Lyra's family moved closer, exploring Armin's small house. They touched objects carefully, showing interest in his technology and the things he had created. Armin explained some of them using gestures and simple words, pointing to tools and devices while showing their purpose. Lyra's family seemed fascinated, tilting their heads and making musical sounds as if laughing quietly. After some time, Armin noticed that Lyra's family began to gesture toward him repeatedly, sometimes touching their hearts and pointing to him. Lyra nodded as she understood. Armin realized they were expressing gratitude and trust. They had witnessed how he cared for Lyra, how he had made her feel safe and respected, and now they were showing their appreciation. The day passed quickly as Armin spent time learning from them. They shared simple stories of Lyra's world, showing images in the air like glowing holograms. Armin watched with wonder as scenes of floating cities, sparkling rivers, and gardens full of glowing flowers appeared. Lyra's family seemed pleased when he asked questions and tried to understand. By evening, the forest was quiet again. Armin and Lyra sat together, while her family remained nearby, observing with gentle smiles. Lyra leaned slightly toward him, glowing softly. Armin touched her hand, understanding her unspoken gratitude. He realized that today had been important, not just for Lyra, but for him. He had made contact with a world beyond Earth, a world that trusted him because of his kindness and patience. As night fell, Armin lay in bed thinking about the incredible day. He had met beings from another world, seen their love and warmth, and felt the first step of a bond between humans and aliens. He felt proud and hopeful. Somewhere nearby, Lyra slept peacefully, comforted by the presence of her family and the care of a human who had opened his heart to her. The stars above twinkled as if celebrating the start of something new. Armin knew that life would never be the same again, and for the first time he realized that helping someone could lead to wonders beyond imagination. The morning sun shone through the forest, spilling golden light across Armin's small house. Today felt different. Lyra's family had stayed nearby overnight, their glowing forms blending with the trees like gentle lights in the morning. Armin felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He wanted to make a good impression and learn more about their world. After a simple breakfast, Lyra's family began to show him some of their culture. Using glowing patterns in the air, they displayed images of their home planet, Viralia. Armin watched in awe as floating cities shimmered above endless forests. Rivers sparkled like liquid crystal, and gardens glowed with flowers and colors he had never imagined. He tried to memorize every detail, fascinated by the beauty and creativity of their world. Lyra's mother, a tall figure with soft, shifting lights across her skin, gestured for Armin to follow. They walked through the forest together, and she used small gestures to show him exercises they practiced to maintain harmony with nature. Armin imitated her movements as best as he could. He stumbled a few times, but she laughed softly in musical tones, not unkindly, only encouraging him. Lyra giggled beside him, glowing brightly in delight. Later, Armin noticed that the family was curious about Earth's customs. They asked questions through gestures and soft melodic sounds. Armin tried to explain simple things: the joy of walking in the forest, the sound of rain on rooftops, and the beauty of sunrise. He showed them some human inventions, including his small gadgets and a tiny drone he had built. The Guardians, as he now thought of them, watched the drone hover and twist in the air, making soft glowing patterns that impressed them greatly. As the day went on, Armin learned more about the Varelian way of life. They valued patience, creativity, and respect for all living things. Every action seemed deliberate and thoughtful, from the way they moved to the way they spoke in soft glowing tones. Armin realized that their world must be full of peace and beauty, a place where life was cherished in every form. He felt honored to meet beings who lived in such harmony. Lyra's father, who had a calm and steady glow, gestured for Armin to sit and observe. Using glowing images and melodic sounds, he explained the importance of family and trust in Varelian culture. Armin watched carefully, noticing how every gesture and tone had meaning. He understood that by helping Lyra, he had shown qualities that Varelians admired: kindness, patience, and understanding. Lyra, meanwhile, stayed close to him, her glowing hand brushing against his occasionally. They tried to communicate using the small translation gestures they had invented, and though imperfect, their bond was growing stronger every moment. Armin felt proud that he could bridge the gap between two very different worlds, even in small ways. By afternoon, the family invited Armin to a small demonstration. They used glowing energy patterns to create shapes in the air, floating flowers, birds, and streams of light that moved gracefully like living art. Armin's eyes widened as he tried to mimic some of the simple movements. His attempts were clumsy at first, but Lyra and her family encouraged him with gentle sounds and motions. Armin laughed at himself, and even Lyra giggled, her light flickering joyfully. Afterward, they all sat together by a stream near the forest. Armin noticed how the Varelians watched the water carefully, listening to its sound, touching it gently, and showing appreciation for its life-giving presence. He tried to understand this quiet reverence, feeling how meaningful small things could be. Lyra leaned against him, and he felt her trust and comfort. He knew that in helping her, he had been given a window into a completely new way of seeing the world. As evening approached, Armin and Lyra's family returned to his house. The sky was painted with shades of pink and gold, and the forest was calm. Armin felt a sense of peace he had never experienced before. Lyra's family made glowing gestures that seemed to show approval and gratitude. Lyra herself touched his hand lightly, a small but clear sign that she trusted him deeply. Before going to bed, Armin reflected on the day. He had learned about another world, about love, respect, and harmony. He realized that kindness could cross planets and patience could build bridges between species. Lyra slept peacefully in the soft glow of the room, and Armin felt happy knowing he had made her feel safe. The stars twinkled above, silent witnesses to the start of a remarkable friendship. Armin knew that tomorrow would bring new experiences and lessons, and he was ready. He had already discovered that sometimes the greatest adventures were not in exploring distant planets, but in understanding hearts and minds different from his own. The next morning, Armin woke feeling both excited and nervous. He knew today might be important, though he did not yet fully understand why. Lyra's family had been kind and welcoming, but there was a different energy in the air, a sense of anticipation. When he entered the living space, Lyra was already awake, her glowing eyes following him as he walked. She smiled softly and made a melodic sound that made him feel at ease. After breakfast, Lyra's family gathered together, their glowing forms brighter than usual. Armin noticed subtle gestures, touching their chests, glancing at him, then at Lyra. He realized they were preparing to communicate something significant. Armin took a deep breath and approached, trying to remain calm. Lyra squeezed his hand lightly, reassuring him with silent trust. The tallest member of the family stepped forward and extended a hand toward Armin. He accepted it, feeling a warm energy that seemed to flow from the being's glow. Through soft melodic sounds and flowing patterns in the air, The family began to explain their feelings. Armand concentrated, watching every gesture and listening to the rhythm of the sounds, gradually understanding their meaning. They were expressing deep gratitude for how he had cared for Lyra. They admired his patience, kindness, and courage, the way he had made her feel safe in an unfamiliar world. Then, slowly, they communicated something more personal. They hoped he could become more than a friend to Lyra. Their gestures and glowing patterns suggested a bond of family and trust, and they wanted him to be her partner, a symbolic connection between their worlds. Armand froze for a moment, processing what he was hearing. He had never imagined such a moment would happen. He looked at Lyra, whose glowing eyes met his, full of warmth and comfort. She smiled softly, leaning slightly toward him. Her glow brightened subtly, as if giving him permission to accept this unexpected proposal. Armand's heart raced, but he realized he felt the same way. Over the past days, he had grown close to Lyra. Her kindness, her curiosity, and her gentle nature had touched him deeply. And now, being invited into her family in this special way felt like an honor beyond words. He nodded carefully, and the family responded with glowing gestures of approval and happiness. Lyra stepped forward, brushing her hand against his. Armand took her hand gently, feeling a connection that went beyond language. They shared a moment of quiet understanding. Words were not needed. Their feelings were clear. Armand knew he wanted to continue this journey with her, to learn more about her world and to strengthen the bond that had already begun. The family spent the rest of the day showing Armand small traditions and lessons about Varelian life that related to partnership and respect. They explained the importance of mutual care, honesty, and understanding in relationships. Armand listened carefully, eager to learn. He realized that being part of their family would not only be a personal honor, but also a responsibility to continue the values they cherished. Lyra and Armand spent time together, walking in the forest and practicing some of the gestures and glowing patterns they had learned. They laughed together when Armand stumbled, trying to mimic the graceful movements of the Varelians. Lyra's glow flickered with joy, and Armand felt a happiness he had never known before. Their connection had grown from trust to friendship, and now something deeper was forming, a bond that bridged worlds. By evening, the forest was calm, and the sun cast long shadows across the trees. Armand, Lyra, and her family gathered near a small clearing. They created glowing shapes in the air, celebrating the new understanding and bond. Armand participated as best as he could, his own gestures accepted with encouragement. It was a beautiful display, a mixture of Varelian tradition and human curiosity. As night fell, Armand looked at Lyra, who was sitting beside him, her glow soft and comforting. He realized that helping her had led him to this remarkable moment, one that connected two very different worlds. He felt proud, grateful, and deeply happy. Lyra's family surrounded them with warmth, showing that trust and kindness could create bonds stronger than words or distance. Before going to sleep, Armand reflected on the day. He understood that life could be full of surprises, and that courage, empathy, and patience could open doors to unimaginable experiences. Lyra rested beside him, safe and content, and he felt honored to have been chosen by her family to share this journey. Outside, the stars sparkled brightly, as if celebrating the beginning of a remarkable new chapter in their lives. The morning sunlight filtered through the trees as Armand woke with a sense of purpose. Today he would begin preparations for a journey he had never imagined taking. Lyra was already awake, sitting near the window, her glowing eyes reflecting the first rays of light. She looked at him and made a soft melodic sound as if asking if he was ready. Armand smiled and nodded, feeling both excitement and a touch of nervousness. After a simple breakfast, Lyra's family gathered around. Their glowing forms seemed brighter today, filled with warmth and encouragement. They had decided to teach Armand more about Varelia, to help him understand their world before he joined Lyra there. Armand listened intently, eager to learn. They began with small lessons. Lyra's mother showed him how Varelians moved with harmony, how their gestures were precise and meaningful. Armand practiced carefully, imitating the flowing movements and trying to mirror their patterns. At first his attempts were clumsy, but the Varelians encouraged him with gentle sounds and smiles. Lyra stood beside him, her glow flickering with amusement, guiding him silently. Next, They taught him about Varelian tools and devices, showing him how they worked without harming the environment. Armand's curiosity grew as he examined their floating instruments, glowing crystals and small machines that seemed to operate on energy alone. He asked questions, pointed and experimented, learning quickly. The Varelians seemed impressed by his eagerness and cleverness, and Armand felt proud to show that humans could learn and adapt. By midday, they moved outside to practice using small Varelian devices for travel. Armand learned how to navigate using energy patterns in the air, and how to sense directions through subtle vibrations he could feel in his hands. Lyra's father demonstrated slowly and Armand followed, stepping carefully and mimicking the glowing gestures. Each time he succeeded, the Varelians responded with melodic sounds of approval. Lyra stayed close, guiding him through each step with small glowing hints. She laughed softly when he stumbled, and he laughed too, feeling a growing bond of trust and affection between them. He realized that this journey was not just about reaching a new world. It was about understanding, patience, and learning to work together across cultures and species. In the afternoon, Armand and Lyra's family practiced small rituals of respect and gratitude, which were important on Virelia. They thanked the land, the air, and even the smallest creatures, showing that every life was valued. Armand found these rituals beautiful and calming, and he tried to follow carefully, feeling a sense of connection not only to Lyra and her family but to the natural world around him. Later, Lyra took Armand aside. She showed him a small floating crystal that glowed softly. It was a communication tool used by Varelians to send messages across distances. She taught him how to focus energy into the crystal, creating small light patterns that could carry simple messages. Armand practiced, and though it was difficult at first, he managed to create small patterns that Lyra understood. They smiled at each other, realizing how much they had learned together. As the sun began to set, Armand sat with Lyra and her family by the forest edge. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange, reflecting in the small stream nearby. The Varelians made glowing gestures, showing approval of his progress and trust in his abilities. Lyra leaned against him, her soft glow blending with his warmth, and he felt a deep sense of belonging. Before nightfall, Armand reflected on the day. He had learned new ways of moving, thinking, and communicating. He had seen how kindness, patience, and curiosity could bridge worlds and bring beings together. He felt grateful for the opportunity to be part of something bigger than himself. That night, as Armand lay down to sleep, he thought of the journey ahead. He knew challenges would come, but he felt ready. With Lyra by his side and her family's guidance, he could face anything. Outside, the stars twinkled brightly, like tiny beacons guiding him toward Virelia. And for the first time, Armand understood that adventure was not only about distance, it was about trust, friendship, and the courage to step into the unknown. The morning of departure arrived with a quiet, magical light. Armand felt his heart race as he stood beside Lyra and her family. Today he would leave Earth and travel to Virelia, a world he had only seen through glowing images and stories. Lyra glowed softly, brushing her hand against his, giving him comfort and reassurance. Armand squeezed her hand gently, feeling the trust and bond that had grown over the past days. Lyra's family surrounded them, their glowing forms brighter than ever. They made melodic sounds and flowing gestures, guiding Armand and Lyra through the final preparations. Small floating devices hovered in the air, ready to carry them safely. Armand marveled at the advanced technology, amazed by how it combined beauty and purpose without harming the environment. As they stepped into the small glowing platform, Armand felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Lyra's father touched his shoulder with a gentle glow, a silent gesture of encouragement. Armand nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. He realized that he was not just traveling to a new world. He was entering a family, a culture, and a life that trusted him completely. The platform lifted slowly, rising above the trees. Armand looked down at the forest he had called home for so long. He felt gratitude for the earth that had brought him to this moment. Lyra's glow brightened as they ascended, and she whispered, in melodic sounds Armand was beginning to understand, how happy she was to have him by her side. As they left the atmosphere, Armand gazed at the stars. He had seen the sky many times, but now it was different. Each star seemed closer, brighter, and alive with possibility. Lyra pointed to a cluster of lights in the distance, her eyes sparkling. Armin understood. Virelia awaited them, and beyond it, new adventures and lessons would begin. During the journey, Lyra showed him more about her world. She explained, through glowing patterns and melodic tones, the floating cities, the glowing rivers, and the forests filled with light. Armin listened carefully, marveling at every detail. He asked questions using gestures and sounds he had learned, and Lyra responded patiently, smiling at his eagerness. They laughed together when small mistakes happened, like misinterpreted gestures or glowing patterns that didn't match. The shared laughter made the journey feel lighter and joyful. After several hours, the view of Virelia appeared. Floating cities shimmered above glowing forests, and streams of light moved gracefully across the land. Armin's eyes widened in wonder. He had imagined this world, but seeing it in reality was breathtaking. Lyra's family guided the platform gently down toward the largest city. The glow of the streets and buildings reflected the harmony and beauty of a world where life was cherished in every form. As they landed, the Virelians who lived in the city welcomed them with soft melodic sounds and glowing gestures. Armin realized that he was not only a visitor, but someone recognized and trusted by this remarkable society. Lyra's family glowed proudly, showing him that his kindness and patience had earned a place among them. Once safely on the ground, Armin and Lyra walked through the city together. The floating gardens, the sparkling rivers, and the soft glowing lights created a magical atmosphere. Armin noticed how every being moved with grace, and he felt inspired to learn and adapt fully to this new life. Lyra held his hand gently, and he felt the connection between them deepen even more. By evening, Armin, Lyra, and her family stood at the edge of a floating terrace overlooking the city. The sky was a cascade of colors, reflecting in the glowing rivers below. Armin realized that this was a new beginning, not just for him, but for the bond between Earth and Virelia, between human and Virelian. He felt proud, honored, and deeply happy. Lyra leaned against him, her glow mingling with his warmth. Armin whispered softly, "We made it, together." She responded with a gentle melodic sound, her eyes sparkling with joy. He smiled, knowing that kindness, patience, and trust had guided him to this extraordinary moment. As night fell, the stars above Virelia mirrored the ones he had known on Earth, yet they felt different, alive, welcoming, and full of possibilities. Armin knew that life here would be filled with learning, wonder, and love. With Lyra by his side and her family's guidance, he was ready for the adventures and the happiness that awaited him. The platform where they had landed glowed softly, reflecting the lights of the city and the warmth of family. Armin looked around, taking in every detail. He knew he had found a place where he truly belonged, and that the journey he had begun by helping a lost alien woman had transformed his life forever. In that quiet, glowing night, Armin understood that sometimes the most extraordinary adventures began with a single act of kindness. And now, with Lyra and her family, he was ready to step into a world full of light, trust, and endless possibilities.